That turns out to be one hell of a fight, he notes while rubbing his belly. Also, not a bad snack afterward. Meanwhile, the moment that little creature gets eaten, Qian Yushu's body starts dissolving, fading away from the stage in just seconds. Lu Sheng tells himself he really ought to thank Far for the pre-match briefing, because someone with Monroe's background might not be the best idea to accidentally kill him. But someone like Qian Yushu, no backing, sensitive identity from another universe, comes with no such burden. As for all that talk about reincarnations, our boy is just gonna ignore that crap. He glances around, and the entire audience sits in stunned silence. Everyone looks at each other, and shows more than a few surprised faces. Then, the first pair of hands begins clapping, and the senator himself steps forward to congratulate Lu Sheng, saying this is what their immortal truly means. Furthermore, applause spreads in waves, and soon the crowd erupts, shouting Lu Sheng's name. With that, the caster promptly announces him as the final victor. Even he admits the whole thing is ridiculous, thinking that a 10th level managed to defeat two 12th levels, then immediately took down a quasi-13th level and ended up having one defeated, one crippled, and one killed. He just can't wrap his head around our boy's ruthless efficiency, almost as if everyone else exists merely as his backdrop. Far, meanwhile, is practically in tears. He remarks that he has just witnessed history being born, or perhaps the opening of a legend and myth. Anyway, in his mind, there is no doubt the title of Immortal will spread across all 12 star sectors and beyond. Just then, his family rushes in. Little Sis excitedly said how her big brother is just too strong. His parents hurriedly inspect him for injuries, all the while feeling both proud and overwhelmed. Snowy stays quiet at the side, simply smiling at her hubby. She gently strokes her belly and asks the little one inside whether he can see all this. After all, his father is now the champion of the universe. The tournament finally ends, and Lu Sheng raises the trophy. Shortly after, people begin their return journeys, while some stay behind to play a little longer. Merchants, of course, are not going to miss their chance to make some more quick cash. News of the tournament and its unbelievable outcome spreads across every corner of the universe at incredible speed. Meanwhile, our boy practically became a legend, and even some big names were beginning to pay attention. Sometime later, the scene shifts to the best medical institution in Yamu. Here, Lu Sheng gets stopped by a chubby man who rattles off a long speech. Lu Sheng clearly isn't interested and waves him off. The man panics and urgently asks him to reconsider, adding that their company will absolutely not be stingy with payment. He offers a business card with both hands, insisting that Lu Sheng accept it no matter what. Lu Sheng takes it, right as a security guard spots the chubby man and shouts at him again for sneaking into the VIP area. Knowing he's doomed, the man runs for his life, but not before turning back to beg Lu Sheng to think about the offer. Lu Sheng looks at the card. It belongs to a massive film conglomerate operating across several star sectors. Only then does he realize the man is a gold-tier producer who snuck in hoping to hire him for their upcoming series called Immortal Legend. Rumor has it, the budget alone exceeds 10 trillion black crystal coins, and if Lu Sheng agrees to appear, he could easily earn a big cut in licensing fees and salary. Charming, to say the least. However, if not for the terrifying crisis looming 6 years from now, one capable of wiping out an entire star system, he might have actually considered it. As things stand, he barely has enough time to train. If he could turn seconds into minutes, he absolutely would. But he gotta say, that amount of money is super tempting. But he pushes the thought aside as he steps into the hospital room. Snowy leans against the headboard, a nurse beside her checking her readings. Snowy smiled and said, "Great timing," and she just finished her checkup. Lu Sheng casually tells her about the chubby producer who approached him just now. The offer is undeniably attractive, he admits. Yet the reality is he isn't short on money at all. At this point, anything he needs is only a word away from Yamu's support. Still, even he believed it feels a little awkward sometimes to constantly ask for things. He then takes Snowy's hand and adds that now, with a baby on the way, he's got a family to feed. Snowy blushes and leans gently against him. The nurse, not wanting to disturb the moment, waits for a bit before explaining that Snowy's health indicators look excellent, and the child in her belly is looking great. But then she trails off, unsure how to continue. Lu Sheng's expression sharpens instantly. His sudden aura startles the nurse so much that she switches to formal speech, and even addresses him as the Immortal Count. She quickly explains that Lu Sheng's bloodline is far too powerful, and because of that, the expected date may exceed that of any ordinary human. Lu Sheng asks how long. She gives a conservative estimate, saying more than 3 universe years or around 9 Earth years. Hearing this, both of them were shocked. Suddenly, his communicator buzzes. It's family. calling to ask about Snowy. After Lu Sheng's explanation, they're shocked, then worried. So he changes the subject, mentioning that the tournament rewards just arrived, and he needs to go claim the territory of his new countship. He suggests the whole family choose a planet to move to so Snowy can recuperate there. Little Sis curiously asks how many planets he actually has. Lu Sheng does a quick calculation in his head, pauses for a bit, then notes that if he only counts habitable planets, there are roughly 100,000. That line alone stuns the whole family into silence. Either way, a few days later, the family boards a ship and lands on one of the planets within his territory. The environment here is untouched by industrialization. Clear rivers, blue skies, white clouds, and wide grasslands where herds of animals graze peacefully. Lu Sheng observes that the planet's total land area is twice that of Earth, with 60% solid ground, 93% vegetation coverage, and abundant fresh water. Gravity measures at 1.5 times Earth's, and there are no signs of beast invasions. There are natives, but the strongest are only 6th level. Overall, he's quite satisfied and says it's ideal for living. He then asks his wife what she thinks. Snowy smiles and says the planet is beautiful, but when she asks about the name of the planet, Lu Sheng explains that it used to be called Venta, which he finds unpleasant. So he picked a new name called Nurture the Baby Star. He seems very proud of it. Only Snowy falls silent, feeling once again that her hubby probably has no talent for naming things. Shortly after, the first wave of visitors arrives. Relatives, friends, and, of course, a bit of chaos. Ever since witnessing her big brother's dominance in the tournament, Lu Qing has been glued to him non-stop. Lu Sheng, utterly worn down by her pestering, finally agrees to personally guide her training. But soon enough, Lu Qing regrets everything, loudly declaring her brother a dictator and a tyrant, insisting she just wants to have fun. Either way, the family settles in quickly, and for the first time in years, Lu Sheng feels a sense of peace he hasn't tasted in ages. Meanwhile, that peace doesn't last long. The commander calls and says he has already sent people into the cavern rift that Lu Sheng reported. After losing 1 11th level and 4 10th levels, the intel they brought back is even worse than expected. Lu Sheng immediately realizes that during his absence from Earth, that monster-looking thing has likely devised even more sinister ways to deal with him. He remembers how lucky he was to escape its clutches while recovering in the deep ocean back then, and the thought only sharpens his urgency to grow stronger. Sure, it might seem like he's still got 6 more years, but who knows what unexpected disaster might appear early. Anyway, with that thought, he decides he must accelerate his pace. Tapping into the dream realm, Lu Sheng once again steps onto a distant planet. Here, he studies Gray's flames, noting that fire's opposite side, which he believed the corrosive nature of it holds tremendous potential. If he pushes the concept further using origin power, it might rival even his stellar martial will. The real question is whether he can merge the entirety of this flame into that same path. With 2 types of flames in each hand, he begins the attempt, fusing 2 martial paths, pushing the simulation as far as he can. But once the flame fades, he checks the progress and sees decimal places stretching into absurdity. He remarks that this is meaningless. If fusion is this difficult, he'll simply train it separately. He extends a hand, summoning the mutated cell. After all, he notes, mutated cells originate from the dark side of the universe. They're perfect vessels to host this flame. He recalls someone who practiced a technique that purified both divine and demonic aspects, or one might call it God and devil in one body, cycling back and forth. He imagines the balance, one side radiant, righteous, the other eerie, merciless, and honestly, it sounds incredibly cool. Though the idea comes from a novel he once read, he firmly believes the strongest martial arts in the universe are born from imagination. In fact, he has always wanted to do something like this. That's why he started his perfect martial path. Perhaps he can use both immortal cells and mutated cells together to carve out a martial path unmatched across ancient or modern times. Unfortunately, reality disagrees. He's become far too strong, and the moment the mutated cells appear, they get instantly suppressed by the immortal cells, leaving almost no room for survival at all. Just then, he suddenly gets an idea. If using mutated cells on himself doesn't work, what about the ones he left on Earth? Without hesitation, he returns to the real world and projects his consciousness 500 light-years away back to Earth. The scene shifts into the cavern. The tiny shark from back then is now utterly unrecognizable. Its tentacles lash wildly, grabbing anything that moves and devouring it whole. Even Lu Sheng is startled when he sees it. He quietly asks himself how many creatures this thing must have consumed to become this big. High-level beasts wander past it, but none escape. Suddenly, a voice echoes in Lu Sheng's mind. sounding almost like someone coaxing a child, calling him good kid, and telling him to come over. Just then, a bunch of eyes appear in the darkness, staring at him. More precisely, staring at the mutated cell. Lu Sheng feels a chill. It's as if a cluster of eyeballs is pressed right up against a glass window. And yet, despite how revolting they look, the eyes surprisingly carry emotion. Specifically, affection. Weird as it is, he was sure this was parental affection. The voice continues, telling the mutated cell to eat more, grow faster. Then, with a chilling shift, it adds, grow, become strong, and then catch him. A memory surges into the mutated cell. It was an image of Lu Sheng himself mocking the creature in the past. And with that, everything becomes painfully clear. All of this was orchestrated for him. The truth is, that monster hates him so thoroughly that it refuses to wait 6 years. So instead, it tries to raise a loyal subordinate right here in advance, just to cause him trouble sooner. And to do that, the creature needed something powerful. That explains why the creature chose the mutated cell, and clearly, it recognized its terrifying potential. After tens of millions of cycles of mutation and evolution, the mutated cell's talent far surpasses that of any ordinary beast. Then he wonders if it ever discovers that the creature it's raising like a beloved heir is actually his own mutated cell. Would it explode from sheer rage on the spot? To think the monster is completely unaware that it's essentially raising his kid to one day fight him. The whole situation is so absurd that he can barely keep himself from laughing. Inwardly, he muses that this must be the peak genius of the dark side universe.